The lawyer's words kept echoing in my head as I sat in that sterile office. My father, Fire Chief Daniel Hayes, 32 years of service, was dead. And apparently, he'd left me something. That should have felt like closure. Instead, it felt like one more cruel joke from a man who'd spent the last 3 years convinced I was an arsonist. I'm Marcus. I'm 34 now, though some days I feel twice that age. 3 years ago, I had a decent life. I worked as an EMT in Boulder, Colorado, had a girlfriend, Sarah, had plans to propose, had a relationship with my father that, while never warm, was at least civil. My dad wasn't the type to say I love you, but he'd show up when it mattered. Or so I thought. Then came the fire at Mountain View Elementary. 7 classrooms destroyed. Thank God it happened at night when no kids were there, but the damage was catastrophic. $2 million gone. The investigation pointed to accelerants, deliberate ignition points, someone with knowledge of how fires spread. They found my EMT jacket in the debris. Never mind that I'd reported it stolen from my truck 2 weeks earlier. Never mind that I had no motive, no history of anything like this. The evidence was circumstantial, but in a small town like Ridge Valley where everyone knew the fire chief's son worked emergency services, circumstantial was enough for suspicion. The police questioned me for hours. I told them everything. Where I was that night, I'd been at home with Sarah watching a movie, but she'd fallen asleep early and I had no other alibi after 10 p.m. The fire started around midnight. I explained about the stolen jacket. I passed a polygraph, but the doubt had been planted. Sarah started looking at me differently. I believe you, she'd say, but her eyes told another story. Friends stopped calling. My supervisor at work suggested I take a leave of absence until things settled down. But the worst part, the part that still makes my chest tight when I think about it, was my father. Dad had built his entire identity around the fire department. He joined at 22, worked his way up through sheer determination and sacrifice. Everyone in town respected Fire Chief Hayes. He was honor, duty, service incarnated, and now his son was suspected of the worst crime a firefighter could imagine. I went to him the day after my second police interview. Drove to his house, the same house I grew up in after Mom died when I was 12. He was in his garage, organizing equipment like he always did when stressed. Dad, we need to talk. He didn't look up from the hose he was coiling. Nothing to talk about, Marcus. They're saying I did it. You know, I didn't. You know me. That's when he stopped. Turned around. The look in his eyes, I'd never forget it. Disappointment so deep it seemed physical. I know the evidence, he said slowly. Your jacket, your knowledge of fire behavior, your access to the school through EMT calls. Dad, I know that in 32 years, I've learned to trust the investigation process. His voice got harder. And I know that the son I raised wouldn't do this. But I don't know you anymore, Marcus. Haven't for a while. You got complacent, lazy, stopped caring about the uniform. That wasn't true. None of it was true. But he'd made up his mind. If you didn't do it, prove it, he said. Until then, don't come to my house. Don't call me. Don't use my name. You're no son of mine until you clear yours. He turned back to his hose. Conversation over. I stood there for maybe a minute, waiting for him to turn around, to take it back, to show even a shred of doubt in his judgment. He never did. That was the last time I spoke to my father for 3 years. The charges were eventually dropped. Insufficient evidence, the DA said. But insufficient evidence isn't innocence in most people's eyes. I lost my job. Sarah left, said she needed space to think, which was code for I can't be with someone everyone thinks is a criminal. I moved out of Boulder, couldn't afford the rent anyway. Ended up in Pinewood, a smaller town about 40 minutes away, where nobody knew Fire Chief Hayes or his arsonist son. I found work doing odd jobs, landscape maintenance, some construction, lived in a studio apartment above a Vietnamese restaurant that smelled like pho even at 3 a.m. It was 8 months into my new life when I met Chief. I was walking back from a late shift doing inventory at a warehouse, cutting through an alley behind the old Pinewood fire station. That's when I heard it, this low whimpering sound that didn't fit the November cold. I almost kept walking. Getting involved in anything felt dangerous when you're trying to stay invisible. But I couldn't. That sound, it pulled at something in me that hadn't moved in months. I found him behind a dumpster, a Dalmatian, probably 2 or 3 years old, fur matted with dirt and something darker. Blood. His back right leg was bent at an angle that made my EMT training scream. Compound fracture, definitely. And from the way he was breathing, shallow and rapid, possibly internal injuries too. He growled when I approached, teeth bared, but his tail was tucked completely under. Not aggressive, terrified. "Hey buddy," I said softly, crouching down but keeping distance. "I'm not going to hurt you. Let me see." He watched me with these brown eyes that seemed too aware, too intelligent for the situation to be random. Dalmatians used to be firehouse dogs. I remembered, companions to firefighters, living symbols of the service. The irony wasn't lost on me. I checked my wallet. $32. My next paycheck was 3 days away. The room was paid through the month, but I needed money for bus fare, food, the basics. But this dog, he wouldn't make it through the night without help. The emergency vet clinic was 2 miles away. I carried him, all 60 pounds of trembling, whimpering dog, wrapped in my jacket. He didn't bite, didn't struggle, just pressed against me like he knew I was his only chance. The vet, Dr. Sarah Chen, took one look and gave it to me straight. Surgery to set the leg, antibiotics for the infection, pain management. We're looking at minimum $800, probably more if there's internal damage. You have pet insurance? He's a stray. I just found him. She nodded slowly. Then, I'm sorry, but we require payment upfront for non-established patients. I put my $32 on the counter. This is what I have right now, but I can get more. I work. I can pay in installments. Please. I can't let him die. Doctor. Chen looked at the dog, then at me. Something in my face must have convinced her because she sighed. I can start treatment, stabilize him tonight. But you need to figure out the payment situation quickly. I spent the next 3 days working double shifts, called in every favor I had, sold my laptop, my TV, everything except my clothes and phone. When I came back with $740 in cash, Dr. Chen didn't say anything about being short. She just took the money and led me to the recovery room. The Dalmatian was groggy but alert. His leg was splinted and wrapped. When he saw me, his tail started wagging. Just a little, but enough. He's a fighter, Dr. Chen said. Lucky you found him. Another few hours and we'd have been talking about something more serious. I knelt by the cage. The dog pushed his nose through the bars to sniff my hand. You need a name, buddy, I said. And then it came to me, the bitter irony too perfect to ignore. Chief. Yeah, you're Chief now. The dog, Chief, tilted his head like he approved. Taking care of Chief changed something in me. Gave me a purpose beyond just surviving. He needed physical therapy for his leg. So I researched canine rehabilitation. He needed proper nutrition. So I learned about dog food quality and made his meals from scratch when I couldn't afford premium brands. He needed exercise and mental stimulation. So we walked miles every day through Pinewoods parks and trails. Chief healed fast. Within 6 weeks, he was putting weight on the leg. Within 3 months, you'd barely know it had been broken. But more than that, he became my partner. He'd wait by the door when I left for work, sitting perfectly still like he understood I was coming back. He'd greet me with the same enthusiasm whether I'd been gone 8 hours or 8 minutes. People in Pinewood started to notice. The guy with the Dalmatian. That's a firehouse dog, someone said at the grocery store. You a firefighter? Used to work emergency services, I'd say, leaving it vague. Chief had this uncanny ability to read situations. When I'd have bad days, memories of my father's words or Sarah's departure hitting me hard, he'd rest his head on my lap and just stay there until the weight in my chest eased. When I was okay, he'd bring me his rope toy, bouncing around with infectious energy. Dr. Chen told me about therapy dog training programs. He's got the temperament for it, she said during a follow-up visit. Calm, intuitive, good with people, you should consider it. I did. Spent 6 months getting Chief certified. Turned out he was exceptional. We started volunteering at a nursing home, then a children's hospital, then a veterans center. Chief would visit people dealing with trauma, PTSD, depression, and somehow he always knew exactly what they needed. Sometimes he'd be energetic and playful. Sometimes he'd just lie quietly beside someone while they cried or talked. One Vietnam vet, Frank, who hadn't spoken to anyone in the facility for 2 years, told Chief about his nightmares. Not me, Chief, but I listened. You were in the service? Frank asked me afterward, the first words he'd directed at a person in months. Empt. Not military. Close enough, Frank said. You got the eyes. Something took something from you. I didn't confirm or deny, but Frank nodded like he understood anyway. Life wasn't perfect, but it had meaning again. I'd moved to a better apartment, 1 bedroom with a small yard for Chief. Got promoted to shift supervisor at the warehouse. Started dating someone casually, nothing serious. Ridge Valley and my father felt like another lifetime. Then, 2 years and 4 months after I'd last spoken to him, my dad showed up. I was in the yard with Chief, working on some advanced commands, when I heard the truck pull up. I knew the engine sound before I turned around. Dad's old Ford F-250, same one he'd driven since I was in high school. He got out slowly. He'd aged. More gray in his hair, deeper lines around his eyes. He wore civilian clothes, jeans, and a flannel shirt, which was strange. I'd rarely seen my father in anything but his uniform. Chief immediately positioned himself between me and the stranger, not aggressive but alert, protective. Marcus, Dad said. I couldn't speak. Every imagined conversation I'd had with him over the years evaporated. Nice dog, he continued, nodding at Chief. Dalmatian. Firehouse breed. His name is Chief, I said, and I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. Dad flinched. Actually flinched. Good. Can we talk? Thought you said not to use your name until I cleared mine. Well, charges were dropped. But that's not the same as cleared, is it? Marcus, please. Chief sensed my tension and sat directly on my foot, leaning his weight against my leg, grounding me. What do you want, Dad? He looked at Chief, at me, at the house behind us. You've built something here. I've been. He stopped. Started again. I've been keeping track. Wanted to make sure you were okay. The anger came fast. Keeping track. For over 2 years? You couldn't pick up a phone? I couldn't. His voice cracked. I couldn't face being wrong. And I was wrong. Marcus. The real arsonist. They caught him last year. David Pritchard. Volunteer firefighter. Had a grudge against the school board. Some incident with his kid. He confessed to everything, including stealing your jacket from your truck to frame you. The world tilted. You've known for a year. 14 months, he whispered. 14 months. I couldn't process it. You knew I was innocent for 14 months and you're just now showing up? I wanted to. God, Marcus, I wanted to come the day I found out. But how do you apologize for something like that? How do you tell your son that you betrayed everything, that you let pride and reputation matter more than your own blood? You just do. I was shouting now. Chief stood up, alarmed. You just show up and say, I was wrong, I'm sorry. That's what fathers do. I couldn't. He was crying now, this man who I'd never seen cry, even at Mom's funeral. The department had a ceremony, cleared your name publicly, but I couldn't stand up there and face everyone, knowing what I'd done to you. Fire Chief Hayes, pillar of the community, who didn't even believe his own son. So you did nothing. I did nothing, he agreed. And every day I didn't call, it got harder. Every day became another layer of cowardice. I retired last month. Figured maybe, without the uniform, I could finally be just a man, just your father. And maybe I could find the courage to face you. Chief was watching Dad intently now, head tilted, that same assessing look he got during therapy visits. You should go, I said. Marcus, you should go, Dad. I appreciate you telling me. I really do. But 14 months? You don't get to ease your conscience after 14 months. You don't get to show up now and have it be okay. He nodded slowly, like he'd expected this. I understand. But there's something else you should know. I'm sick, Marcus. Lung cancer. Stage 4. The doctors say maybe 6 months, maybe less. The anger didn't disappear, but it got complicated. Messy. I'm sorry, I said. And meant it. Don't be sorry. It's probably what I deserve. But I needed you to know that I know the truth. That I know you're innocent. That I was wrong. And that I'm... He couldn't finish the sentence. Chief walked over to him. Just walked right up and sat at Dad's feet, looking up at him with those knowing brown eyes. Dad reached down hesitantly, and Chief allowed the touch. Dad stroked his head once, twice, then pulled his hand back. He's good, Dad said. You did good with him. He saved my life. I said honestly. When I found him, I wasn't doing well. He gave me a reason. A dog named Chief, Dad said with the ghost of a smile. You always had a sense of irony. Yeah, well, we stood in awkward silence. There was so much to say and no way to say it. I'll go, Dad said finally. But Marcus, if you ever want to talk or if you need anything, I'm still at the house. Same number. He walked back to his truck, got in, started the engine. I watched him sit there for a moment, hands on the wheel, shoulders shaking. Then he drove away. Chief came back to me and pressed against my legs. I know, buddy, I said. I know. I didn't call him, not that week or the next month. But I thought about it, especially after Chief and I started doing therapy visits at Ridge Valley Medical Center, the hospital where Dad was receiving treatment. Though, I didn't know it at the time. We were visiting the oncology wing when I saw him. Dad, in a hospital gown, thinner than before, standing in the hallway talking to a nurse. He looked up and saw me. Saw Chief. The nurse noticed. Oh, is this the therapy dog everyone's talking about? Chief, right? Yes, ma'am, I said automatically. Daniel, you should meet Chief, the nurse said to my dad. Animals are wonderful for morale. Dad looked at me. I gave the smallest nod. Chief approached Dad and did something he'd never done with a patient before. He stood on his hind legs, front paws against Dad's chest, and licked his face once. Quick, gentle, then dropped back down and sat. He's something special, Dad said, voice thick. He is, I agreed. We didn't talk about the big things. Not there, not then. But twice a week after that, when Chief and I were scheduled for the oncology wing, Dad would be in the common room. Chief would visit him, and we'd make small talk. How's the treatment? How's the therapy program? How's the weather? Safe topics. But it was something. 3 months later, Dad was moved to hospice. I got the call from his nurse. He's asking for you, she said. If you're willing. I went. Chief came with me. Dad was skeletal by then, the cancer having taken everything. But his eyes were clear when we walked in. Hey, Dad. Marcus. He looked at Chief, and Chief, the better judge of character, Chief jumped onto the bed without being invited, curled up right next to Dad's side. Dad's hand found its way to Chief's head, stroking slowly. I've been writing you a letter, Dad said. For months now. Keep rewriting it. Can't get it right. You don't have to. Let me finish. His breath was labored. I can't get it right because there's no right way to say I failed you. I'm your father. My job was to believe in you, to stand beside you, to be your shelter when the world was wrong. And I didn't. I chose my reputation over my son. I chose pride over love. Dad, I was watching you, he continued, these past 2 years. Not stalking, but I kept track. Asked around, heard about the dog, the therapy work, the way you've built a good life from nothing. I went to Ridge Valley Medical once. Watched you and Chief work with the patients. You were so gentle, so present. You became the man I hoped you'd be, and I had nothing to do with it. You had everything to do with it, I said, surprising myself. You taught me what service looks like, what duty means. You taught me that when something's broken, you don't give up, you fix it. That's what I did with Chief. That's what Chief helped me do with myself. Dad was crying silently. I don't deserve your forgiveness. No, I agreed. You don't. But I'm giving it anyway. Not because you earned it, because I'm choosing to. Because holding on to this anger, it's exhausting. And because my voice cracked, because you're my dad, and I don't have much time left with you. He held out his hand. I took it. Chief stayed perfectly still between us, like he understood the moment's weight. I'm proud of you, Dad whispered. I should have said that years ago. I'm proud of the man you are. I know, Dad. I know. We sat like that for a long time, sometimes talking, sometimes just being present. Chief didn't move, this dog I'd found broken behind a dumpster, now providing comfort to a dying man who'd once dismissed his grandson. No, not grandson, his son. Providing comfort to my father. Dad died 6 days later. The funeral was huge, the fire department going all out for their chief. They offered me a place in the honor guard, but I declined. It felt disingenuous. Instead, Chief and I stood in the back, watching the ceremony. When it was over, Fire Captain Mendez approached me. "Your dad talked about you a lot toward the end," he said. "The therapy work, the way you've helped people." He was proud. "Thank you. We'd like Chief to participate in next year's memorial service," Mendez continued. "Honorary position, representing the therapy dogs that help our firefighters with PTSD. If you'd be willing." I looked at Chief, sitting attentively in his therapy vest. "Yeah, we'd be honored." The lawyer called a week later about the will. I almost didn't go, figured Dad had left everything to the fire department or some charity. But curiosity won. "Your father left you everything," the lawyer explained. "The house, his savings, his truck. There's also a letter." The letter was 20 pages, handwritten. Dad's careful script filling page after page with everything he couldn't say in person. Apologies, explanations, memories of Mom, memories of me as a kid, stories about the times he almost called, the days he sat in his truck outside my apartment in Pinewood, trying to find courage. The last page was different. A confession. "I was there," he wrote. "That night when you found Chief, I'd followed you from work. Still couldn't bring myself to approach. I watched you hear him crying, watched you decide to help despite having nothing. I watched you carry him 2 miles to that vet. I sat in my truck outside the clinic while you begged to save a stray dog with money you needed for rent. And I knew then that I'd been wrong about everything. Not just the fire, wrong about who you were as a man. Wrong to doubt you, but I was too cowardly to walk in there and say it. So I paid your vet bill anonymously. It's not much, it's not enough, but it's all I could do from the shadows where I'd put myself. Chief saved you, but you saved him first. That's who you are. That's who you've always been. I'm sorry I couldn't see it sooner. I'm sorry I wasted so much time. I love you, son. I'm proud of you. Tell Chief he's a good dog. Tell him he did what I couldn't. He took care of my boy. Dad." I read the letter 3 times. Cried through each one. Chief put his head in my lap and waited until I was ready to move again. The house felt strange, full of Dad's things but empty of him. I kept most of it the same, moved in slowly. Chief claimed Dad's old recliner immediately, like he knew it was meant for him. I framed one photo from Dad's collection. It was from a fire department Christmas party, maybe 15 years ago. Me at 19 in my new EMT uniform, Dad beside me in his captain's outfit. We're both smiling. I don't remember what was funny, but in that moment, caught by the camera, we looked happy. I put it on the mantle, next to a new photo. Me and Chief at the hospital, both wearing our therapy vests. Chief's tongue is out, I mid-laugh at something a patient said. 2 generations. 2 types of service. 1 family. Chief barked once from his recliner, tail wagging. "Yeah, buddy," I said. "We're home." Sometimes forgiveness comes too late. Sometimes it comes just in time. Sometimes it comes wrapped in fur and 4 legs, and a broken body that heals alongside your own. Chief taught me that love isn't about being perfect. It's about being present. Dad learned that lesson too late for most things, but not too late for truth. And truth, even painful truth, is a kind of grace. We live in Dad's house now, Chief and I. I've started volunteering with the fire department's PTSD program, helping firefighters work through trauma with therapy dog visits. Captain Mendez says Dad would be proud. I think he's right. Every morning, I wake up to Chief's face inches from mine, waiting patiently for breakfast. Every evening, we walk the trails around Ridge Valley, passing the fire station where Dad spent his career. Sometimes I stop and look at the memorial wall, at Dad's name now engraved with the other fallen chiefs. He did his best, Chief, I say. Wasn't always enough, but it was his best. Chief sits, leans against my leg, agrees without words. We walk home together. This dog who became my salvation and my father's redemption. This dog who proved that sometimes the best judges aren't the ones in courtrooms or firehouses. Sometimes they're the ones who just know, instinctively, how to love without condition. Chief looks up at me with those knowing brown eyes. "Yeah," I tell him. "I love you too, buddy. Always will." And we walk on, into whatever comes next, together.